In this video, I want to talk about the second brain and why your second brain needs a knowledge graph. A second brain is a system that allows people to capture, organize, store, and retrieve information using an external tool, like a knowledge management system, for example, Obsidian that you see right now on your screen. However, the problem with most approaches is that they focus too much on classifying ideas into different folders. And while this can be useful, in fact, our human brains do not work in this way. They work based on associations, on reasoning logics and rules. So this is why knowledge graphs are super useful. And if we can visualize our ideas, like I have here with my Obsidian folder, as a knowledge graph and then apply graph theory metrics that allow us to identify what are the most important topics or clusters of ideas that we have inside our vault, how they're connected to one another, what are the gaps between them, what are the different concepts at the periphery of our thinking that could benefit from being developed further. You know, this gives us much more capabilities, especially if we talk about research or creative work. On top of that, if you have a network structure visualized to you as a graph and represented as a graph, then you can also identify diversity. And this is what Infranodus does here. I have the Infranodus Graph View extension here in Obsidian, and I analyze the whole folder of business ideas that I have. And then it shows me, okay, that I'm too focused here. You see, I have the diversity measure. And so it gives me an advice that I could diversify my ideas. So I could benefit from thinking about the clusters and ideas that are at the periphery of the graph. And if the graph was too dispersed, then it would encourage me to connect those ideas together better. So as you can see, this structural approach and graph representation allows you to not only generate interesting ideas and find gaps, but also identify how you can be thinking in order to harmonize your knowledge. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can do that and how you can apply this approach to your particular use case. Because what most people do, you know, when they have a folder, like I have here, for instance, with business ideas that I've been writing down, sometimes using voice recorders, sometimes using text, and I visualize it as a graph, right? Like I can see the main topics inside. If I click here in the Infranodus extension, I can see what are the main topical clusters in this idea. So I get a really nice overview, but I can control how I will be thinking around this graph. Because if I just ask the AI to give me a summary of all the ideas in this folder, AI will do what it does best. It will generate a really predictable outcome that will be quite generic. Of course, I can do some prompt gymnastics in order to get it extract some hidden insights, but it's going to be hard and I have no control over how it does it. Even if I ask it to explain how it's thinking, it's just going to actually take me a lot of time. Here, with the graph, visualizing all the ideas here, I can directly see, okay, I'm focused on workflow dynamics, on interactive legacy, on content generation, AI tools, contextual graphs. So if I know this whole context, I already understand what I'm talking about and what ideas tend to recur on the permanent basis. So for example, I understand that, okay, I should really look into this idea of creating a repository of different workflows that I've been thinking about for a while. Also here, I have something about market insights and so on. And I can click on each of those clusters and then ask Infranodus to generate a summary of what I was thinking about in relation to each cluster. And then I can also look at the actual statements and reiterate through them to understand where exactly I was writing things that relate to market insights. So it's really useful to get an overview, and this is kind of like the first advantage of using the graph, that you can get a nice overview, but you control what you're looking at, and you can choose exactly what you will be selecting and what you will be exploring, not relying on AI to make this choice for you and produce some generic result and maybe forget something that is quite important to you. And then the second advantage of using the graph and having this structured representation of ideas is that you can click on the gaps here, and sometimes you can actually use the 2D mode here, so you can see the gaps a little bit better, and then you reiterate through them, and then you will see that it finds some gaps between the clusters that are furthest apart from each other in the graph. It means that you're thinking about these topics, like I'm thinking about AI tools, and I have this another idea of digital legacy, but I'm not connecting them together. So for me, a nice idea would be how I can connect those two clusters together. And if you use an analogy with social networks, it's like you have two groups that kind of like to hang out together but never connect, and maybe they would benefit from being introduced to each other. So maybe these two clusters of ideas could also benefit from being introduced. And there's a whole theory that shows that really great ideas lie exactly at those structural gaps between different topics. So I can identify those topics using the infranodus graph and then generate an interesting research question that would propose me how I can bridge those ideas together. And then I can reiterate through them and generate some really interesting stuff that will get me thinking in this direction and help me connect my ideas further. One other thing I mentioned is that you can switch to the concepts view, and then you can increase the number of concepts you see here. And then what I like to do is to also use the graph to identify what I have at the periphery of my ideas, like some smaller stuff that will take me beyond this bubble that I'm in when I'm thinking about a certain topic, right? So I can select those and also generate a business idea, for example, based on those clusters, and that will help me take my ideas further beyond the limits of that particular knowledge graph. So it's also a really interesting way to ideate. And finally, like I showed you at the beginning, you have this diversity measure that shows you what the structure of your network is. So it kind of gives you an advice that, okay, Dimitri, you're too focused on certain ideas. Here in this case, I'm talking a lot about AI and marketing, and if I look at the topics, I can have like a more high-level overview, and maybe you would benefit from actually diversifying your ideas. So that means focusing on smaller clusters, looking beyond the periphery, and kind of seeing how you can make them a little bit different from each other, or maybe even erasing some of the central ideas and focusing on the ones that are less obvious. So this would be another really useful way to apply graphs to this thinking. So as you see, we're not really imposing categories on top of our knowledge, but we allow them to organically emerge from the bottom up. And we use network science and graphs in order to make sure that they will be fully related to the content that we're studying. So that I find is very, very interesting. And one last thing, if you want to see how that works, the easiest way to do it is to install the infranodus graph view plugin to Obsidian. If you're already using Obsidian, if you don't have Obsidian, you can also go inside infranodus and create a new graph and import from multiple sources that we have. So for example, if you have Evernote, you can import your Evernote notes here and then connect it to your Vault, and then you see I have the connection here, so I can import my notes from any folder. And then once you do that, you will have it visualized, and then you can analyze it also using the graph inside infranodus. But if you use Obsidian, you can organize your ideas into folders. So here I'm using categories, okay, but it's because I want to have things slightly organized, but inside this organization I would like some ideas to emerge. So this is why I select this folder once I have the graph view plugin installed, and then I right click on that folder and I say, okay, open an infranodus graph. And what it does is that it takes all those different nodes, all those different ideas I've been having, some of them are more developed, some less, and then it visualizes them as a graph and shows me, okay, what are the main topics inside, how they connect to one another. And then you apply this workflow that I demonstrated earlier to see how you could develop them further, and you can use the built-in AI to summarize, ideate, and also generate questions in relation to them. So I hope you find it useful, and I hope it will enhance your approach to building your second brain. And like I promised in the end of the video, I will link above to the video of Nate where he explains how you can build a really nice stack using NA10 and various tools to kind of like create your own system where you can capture ideas through Slack and then use categorization to split them into different groups and then retrieve them using notifications. I really like his approach, so I recommend you to check him out, and also give a shout out from Dimitri from infranodus as well. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to help you, and also if you have any comments or feedback, I will be happy to engage in the comments section below the video. Thanks.